When my dad died, everyone told me to forgive my mom for what she did. But forgiveness doesn't erase bank records, secret accounts, or the truth she's still hiding. I didn't plan to expose her. It just happened. My husband has been begging to have kids, while refusing to lift a finger around the house. And when I was recovering from chronic pain surgeries, he barely helped me at all. Then one day, he dropped the biggest bombshell of our marriage: he wanted an open relationship. That's when I walked out. But what I didn't know was that he'd already been cheating, and the woman was pregnant. Yeah. That's my life right now. I'm 34 years old, my husband Keith is 36, and we've been together for 9 years, married for 4. And lately, I've been staring at the wall every night, wondering if I'm crazy for thinking this marriage is already over. See, for the past year, Keith's been obsessed with the idea of having kids. Every few weeks it's another talk: baby names, future family vacations, how his mom can't wait to be a grandma. I should be excited too, right? But all I can think is, how can I trust him to help with a baby when he won't even rinse a plate? Let me rewind a bit. I work as a dental hygienist at a big practice, been there since 2016. For 10-hour shifts a week, sometimes 5. It's tiring, but the pay's decent and the benefits are good. Keith used to work in IT support, until his company downsized about 15 months ago. When he got laid off, I tried to be the supportive wife. I told him, take your time. We'll be fine for a while. I even picked up an extra shift each week to make up for the lost income. I figured, okay, maybe this is his chance to find something better. But months went by, and nothing changed. Every morning, I'd leave for work and see him hunched over his laptop at the kitchen table. And when I came home, he'd still be sitting there, same posture, same blank stare. Whenever I asked how the job search was going, he'd give me the same vague answers: I'm updating my resume, or I'm researching companies, or my personal favorite, the market's just tough right now. By month 7, I wasn't buying it anymore. One Saturday, I asked if I could see the jobs he'd applied for that week. He got instantly defensive, like I'd accused him of a crime. You're treating me like a child, he snapped. You don't need to check up on me. We argued. I backed off, but my gut wouldn't let it go. So a few weeks later, when he hopped in the shower, I did something I'm not proud of: I opened his laptop. I told myself I'd just take a quick look, just to ease my mind. But what I found made my stomach drop. No job applications. None. Not in months. His browser history was just gaming forums, YouTube rabbit holes, and online shopping. That's it. I sat there staring at the screen, shaking. I'd been working overtime while he spent his days doing nothing. When he came out of the bathroom, I asked calmly, how many jobs did you apply to this week? He said, 5 or 6. I looked him dead in the eye and said, I checked. The silence that followed felt like a bomb about to go off. The argument that night was the worst we'd ever had. He yelled that I'd invaded his privacy, that I had no right to go through his stuff. And I yelled that he'd been lying to my face for months while I carried the entire household alone. That's when he said he was depressed. That he was struggling to find motivation. I told him, then say that. Don't pretend you're job hunting when you're not. He mumbled something about the job market being impossible, that he didn't see the point. I said, then at least help out around the house. Do something. That's when the real truth came out. He looked me right in the eyes and said, housework just doesn't occur to me. If you want me to do something, you should ask. I swear, I almost laughed. Ask? I shouldn't have to ask my 36-year-old husband to clean up his own mess. That was the night I gave him an ultimatum. Get a job within 30 days, or I'm done. He could tell I wasn't bluffing, because a week later, he went crawling back to his old company. They hired him in a different department, less pay, more travel, but at least it was something. That was 5 months ago. And you'd think that'd be a turning point, right? That maybe things would start to get better? But no. If anything, he just found new excuses. He travels 3 or 4 days every other week now. When he's home, he's too tired. The dishes pile up, the laundry never ends, and somehow it's still my problem. And that's where the kid talk really started to sting. See, about 3 years ago, my health started falling apart. Stomach pain, nausea, fatigue. After months of appointments, I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and I've had 4 surgeries since. Every single time, Keith promised he'd take care of me. And every single time, he didn't. After my second surgery, I was supposed to stay off my feet for 10 days. He was between jobs at the time, home all week, perfect opportunity to help, right? Instead, I had to get up to make my own meals because he wouldn't cook. On day 4, I was dragging myself around the kitchen doing laundry because we ran out of clean towels. When I told him I needed help, he shrugged and said, I thought you were feeling better since you were up. I said, I'm up because if I don't do it, nobody will. He apologized, said he'd do better. But of course, he didn't. Now my doctor's telling me that getting pregnant would be complicated, high risk. I'd need a specialist, possibly bed rest, and multiple procedures just to try. And all I can think is, if this man couldn't handle scooping a litter box while I was recovering from surgery, how would he handle a newborn? If he can't remember to feed himself when I'm working late, how would he handle midnight feedings? 2 months ago, I tried to explain all this. I told him I wasn't against having kids, I was just scared. Realistically, I couldn't do it without a real partner. He got angry. Said I was bringing up the past. Said he's different now. Different how? The house is still a disaster, and I'm still the only one cleaning it. Then he threw something in my face that honestly broke me. He said my hesitation about kids was making him question our marriage. That he's 36, that he doesn't want to waste more time. That I was stringing him along. I wasn't. I was just being honest. I told him flat out, I can't raise a child with someone who refuses to be a partner. He said, plenty of guys don't do much housework and they're still good dads. I said, then go be one of them, just not with me. We haven't been intimate much lately either. Between my chronic pain and sheer exhaustion, maybe twice a month at best. He complains constantly, says he feels rejected, unwanted. I told him, I'm in pain, Keith. He said, I understand, but it's been going on too long. I asked him, what happens when we have a baby and we can't be intimate for weeks or months after? What then? He said, that's different, there'd be a reason. I said, my pain is a reason. About a month ago, I suggested couples counseling. He laughed. Said he tried that with an ex and it was a waste of time. Therapists always side with the woman anyway, he said. I asked if he'd consider individual therapy. He said no. Medication? Also no. So, here we are. He wants a baby. But he won't do therapy. Won't clean. Won't support me through my pain. Won't even try to grow. And I'm here, running on fumes, full-time job, surgeries, housework, pain, still being told I'm the problem. I've got one more surgery coming up in 3 weeks, gallbladder removal. The doctor says it's a simple recovery, but I already know how it's going to go. Keith will be there for me the first couple of days, then leave on another work trip. And I'll be back to heating soup and folding laundry with stitches still healing. Lately, I've started imagining what it would look like to just leave. We own the house together, but I've paid most of the mortgage since his unemployment. The cars are separate. No joint credit cards. Just a shared savings account that I've been the only one contributing to for the past 2 years. Part of me whispers, you've already tried enough. But another part says, 9 years, that's a long time to walk away from. I don't know. Do I give him one more chance? Or do I finally start calling lawyers? The surgery went fine. The recovery? Rough, but manageable. I'm back at work now, easing in with shorter shifts while my body catches up. But honestly, that's not what this update is about. The real story started before the surgery, the day I finally sat down with Keith for what I knew might be our last real conversation as husband and wife. I'd been thinking about it for weeks, running through every possible outcome in my head. I told myself I'd give it one more try. One honest, grown-up talk before I made any permanent decisions. The night before, I couldn't sleep. My hands needed something to do, so I cleaned the entire house from top to bottom, every counter wiped, every dish scrubbed. I even made Keith's favorite breakfast the next morning. Eggs, toast, coffee the way he likes it, black with 1 sugar. From the outside, it probably looked like I was just trying to be sweet. But inside? I already knew how this was going to end. He sat at the table scrolling through his phone, coffee steaming in front of him, and I just blurted it out. Keith, are you happy? Like, actually happy? Is this really the marriage you want? He didn't answer right away. Just stared into his mug for what felt like forever. Finally, he sighed and said, I don't think either of us has been happy for a while. I still care about you, but something's missing. And then came the part that made my stomach twist. He mentioned this couple we both know, mutual friends, who had recently opened their marriage. The husband had realized he was asexual, so they'd agreed that the wife could see other people while they stayed married. Keith said, real calm, like he was reading the weather forecast, I've been wondering if something like that could work for us. I froze. Wait, I said. Are you seriously suggesting we have an open marriage? He looked me dead in the eye and said, well, with all my travel and you may be taking contracts at other dental offices, maybe it makes sense. We could stay together but also see other people. Take the pressure off. My hands went cold. My pulse was in my ears. I asked him flat out, Keith, are you already seeing someone? Did you get someone pregnant? He said no. He swore he wasn't cheating. Then, as if that somehow made it better, he told me some woman at a hotel bar had bought him a drink a few weeks ago and flirted with him. He said it felt nice to be wanted again. Then, get this, he pulled out his phone and showed me group chat messages from some online forum for polyamorous people in monogamous marriages. The messages were all recent. That's when it clicked. He hadn't just been thinking about this, he'd been planning it. Testing the waters. Seeing how far he could push. I stood up. My voice didn't even shake. Get out, I said. We're done. I'm not opening anything because there's nothing left to open. We want completely different things, and I'm tired of being the only one who even tries. He blinked, like he couldn't believe I'd actually said it. He asked, are you sure? I said, yes. He asked if we could talk again after my surgery, when I was feeling better. I said, no, Keith. I've been feeling like this for years. You just didn't notice. Then I told him to pack a bag and stay somewhere else. He left quietly while I drove to my friend Monica's house. Monica's been my rock. She's in the middle of her own divorce, so she got it. We sat on her couch all afternoon, 2 women with broken marriages and matching eye bags, passing tissues and drinking tea. I cried more than I thought I would, not because I wanted Keith back, but because 9 years is 9 years. You can't just erase that overnight. Monica handed me her lawyer's number, and I made an appointment for the week after my surgery. When I got home that evening, Keith's side of the closet was empty. His drawers too. Even his cat, Max, was gone, which was fine. Max had been his before we met. The house felt strange. Hollow. But the silence that night? It was peaceful. 2 days after my surgery, Keith's mom, Catherine, called. She said Keith told her we were separating and wanted to check on me. Catherine and I always got along. We bonded over shared digestive issues, of all things, coffee dates, swapping recipes for safe meals. She was kind. We talked around the elephant in the room for a while, about my surgery, her garden, her new knee brace. But eventually, she brought up Keith. Said he'd moved into the guest house on their property and wasn't doing well. She asked if there was any chance we'd reconsider. I told her the truth. Catherine, I asked Keith to go to counseling. For over a year. I begged him to help me. And when I was drowning, he just watched. Her eyes filled with tears. He's always been a good boy, she whispered. I said, he used to be. We both cried. We hugged goodbye knowing, without saying it, that this was probably the last time we'd see each other as family. The next day, Keith came by the house. He tried to hug me, and I let him. But when he leaned in for a kiss, I turned my head. His lips brushed my cheek instead. He looked hurt, but I stayed quiet. Then he started talking, fast. Apologies spilling out like a confession. He admitted everything I'd been wanting him to say for years. That he hadn't helped enough. That he relied on me too much. That he should have done better. He said he'd applied for a new position at work, one that wouldn't require travel. It starts next month if I get it, he said, like that would fix everything. Then he gave me an update about Max, because apparently, that's what we talk about now. Cats and logistics instead of love. When he was done, I took a deep breath and said, Keith, you'll be getting divorce papers in a few weeks. He froze. Didn't look at me. Just nodded once. I helped him pack the last of his things from the garage, boxes, old tools, that one broken drone he swore he'd fix, and then he left. 3 days later, I met with the lawyer. She was direct and confident, exactly what I needed. We talked about the house. I told her I wanted to buy out Keith's half if possible. She said it looked good, no kids, separate cars, no joint credit cards. The savings account was shared, but I had proof I'd been the only one depositing money for the past 2 years. She smiled and said, you'll probably get most of it. She also said Keith wouldn't qualify for alimony since he's capable of earning as much as I do. His unemployment, she pointed out, was a choice. Her advice was simple, keep using the joint account for household bills until the paperwork's finalized, and nothing else. Now, I'm learning how to live in the quiet. My 2 cats are calmer. The house smells clean again. I'm sleeping better, even while healing. Some nights, I still glance over at the empty side of the bed and feel that little sting of loss, but it's fading. This week, I finally went back to my regular shifts. I came home last night, sat on the couch with my cats purring on either side of me, and realized something. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like peace. The divorce papers were served 4 days ago. Keith texted me that night, just 6 words. I got them. We should talk. I didn't reply. By then, there was nothing left to say. My recovery from the gallbladder surgery had gone well. I was back on my feet, picking up extra shifts to fill the silence that came with finally being alone. My days were busy, my nights quieter than ever. Then, 3 days ago, everything changed. I'd stopped at the pharmacy after work to pick up a prescription. I was still in my scrubs, tired but content, just another normal weekday. While I waited at the counter, I noticed a woman standing in the next aisle by the prenatal vitamins. She looked young, maybe mid-20s, and clearly pregnant, at least 6 or 7 months along. She was pale, eyes red like she'd been crying for hours. At first, I didn't think anything of it. But then she turned toward me, hesitated for a moment, and walked straight over. Her voice trembled. Are you Keith's wife? My stomach dropped. Technically, yes, I said. Until the divorce is finalized. That's when she broke. Right there, between the Tylenol and baby formula aisle, she started sobbing. Her name was Alicia. She's 27. A 3rd grade teacher at an elementary school about 40 minutes away. She told me she'd been seeing Keith for 9 months. 9 months. That's when the air went out of my lungs. She said they met at that same hotel bar he once mentioned to me, the one he used as his excuse to talk about being flirted with. And now? She was pregnant. About 10 weeks away from giving birth. And it was his baby. I felt like I was underwater, like the floor had tilted. But I forced myself to stay calm. I asked her what she meant by seeing him. She said they'd been in a relationship. That Keith told her he and I were already separated, just living together temporarily, for financial reasons. That we were transitioning into an open marriage, and that things were complicated because of my health. He'd even shown her the same polyamory forum messages he'd shown me. The same screenshots. The same manipulation. He told her I was too sick, too busy, too cold. That he was the neglected one. And that he'd fallen in love with her. But that's not even the worst part. Alicia told me she found out the truth just a few days ago, the same day Keith got the divorce papers. She went to his place and saw the envelope sitting right there on the counter. When she confronted him, he panicked. Told her the baby wasn't his problem. That they'd just been having fun. That she'd misunderstood what it was. He'd promised her love, a future, a family, and then threw her away the moment reality caught up to him. We ended up sitting in my car in the pharmacy parking lot for almost 2 hours. 2 women, both lied to, both blindsided, trying to piece together the mess one man created. She cried so hard she could barely speak. She said Keith told her he wanted to be a dad, that once the divorce went through, they'd figure everything out together. She said she thought she'd finally found someone who wanted her and the baby. And I just felt numb. I told her everything. About his unemployment and the months he spent lying about job hunting. About how he refused to help me after surgeries. About how he'd pushed to have kids with me while doing nothing to actually be a father. And about that open marriage talk, how it wasn't some new idea to save us. It was just his cover story. Alicia kept apologizing through tears, saying she didn't mean to get involved in our marriage. I told her she had nothing to apologize for. He lied to both of us, I said. He's good at that, making people feel guilty while he's the one doing the damage. Before we left, I gave her my lawyer's contact info. Told her to file for child support as soon as possible. I warned her, Keith has a habit of quitting things when they get hard. Jobs, relationships, responsibility, anything that makes him uncomfortable. She'd need to document everything. When I got home, I sat in my car for a few minutes, staring at the front door. My hands were shaking. Then I walked inside and called Keith. He picked up on the second ring, his voice already defensive. I can explain, he started. It was a mistake. I still want to work things out with you. I'll end things with her right away. I actually laughed, that kind of dark, bitter laugh that comes out when you've got nothing left to lose. Keith, I said, you already ended things with her. You told her the baby wasn't your problem the second she found those divorce papers. Silence. He didn't deny it. Didn't even try. After a long pause, he said, I won't fight the divorce anymore. I never wanted it to end like this. I told him, you just didn't want to get caught. There's a difference. He hung up. I called my lawyer right after. When I told her what happened, she said the adultery and the pregnancy would strengthen my case significantly. He'd have almost no leverage now. That night, my phone rang again. It was Catherine, Keith's mom. Her voice was shaking. She said she'd already heard about Alicia from someone in town. Small towns have a way of spreading news faster than the internet. She was crying so hard I could barely make out the words. She asked if there was any way I could forgive him. If we could somehow work things out. I told her, gently, some things can't be fixed, Catherine. If that baby's his, you're going to be a grandmother, and that child deserves good people in its life. But I'm not one of them anymore. She thanked me for saying that. Then she hung up, still sobbing. I just sat there afterward, staring at the quiet house, trying to wrap my head around how long Keith must have been planning this. The open marriage talk wasn't about freedom, it was about cover. He'd already been cheating. He just wanted permission after the fact. And then, the fear hit me. We'd been intimate about 4 weeks before I found out about Alicia. She and Keith were still together more recently than that. My chest tightened. The thought of what he could have risked with my health, after everything I'd already been through, made me sick. I called my doctor first thing the next morning and scheduled a full round of tests. The results came in today. Negative across the board. I still have to retest in a few months just to be sure, but for now, I'm okay. Alicia texted me yesterday, asking if I'd want to meet for coffee sometime, to talk more about the child support process, about what to expect. I said yes. She deserves someone who understands what she's walking into. Now, it's just me, my cats, and the soft hum of a house that finally feels peaceful. It's strange, even after everything, I don't feel broken. Just lighter. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't destroy you. It sets you free. 2 weeks ago, Alicia and I finally met for coffee. I thought it would just be a quiet check-in, maybe a few updates about her pregnancy, some legal talk. But when she showed up, she had this big manila folder clutched to her chest. Her hands were shaking when she slid it across the table. Inside were screenshots. Dozens of them. Messages between Keith and at least 3 other women, all from the past year. All while he was supposedly trying to work things out with me, or build a future with Alicia. I felt my throat close up as I flipped through the pages. His words looked the same in every thread. The same charm, the same fake tenderness. One woman, Rachel, had been seeing him for about 7 months. 7 months. And she'd been pregnant too, but had a miscarriage around 3 months in. That was only about a month ago. She had no idea about me or Alicia, or any of the others, until Alicia found her through Keith's social media. Another woman, Lauren, had cut things off after a few weeks because she said something felt wrong. She didn't know why at the time, just a gut instinct, but now she understood. Alicia had mapped it all out. Every work trip, every business meeting. Keith had a different woman at nearly every one of his travel locations. Same story every time, that his wife was sick, that we were separated but still living together, that things were complicated but heading toward divorce. He was like a walking copy-paste template for betrayal. I remember asking Alicia, when was the last time you saw him? She said, about 2 weeks before we met at the pharmacy. And that's when it hit me like a punch. Keith and I had been together a week before that. I went home and threw up. Then I made another appointment to get tested, again, even though my first results had come back clean. Rachel, the woman from Denver, turned out to be braver than any of us. She decided she wanted proof, something concrete. So when Keith went on one of his usual work trips, she went too. She booked a room at his regular hotel and followed him for 2 days. She watched him meet 2 women, one clearly someone he already knew. They had dinner, laughed like old lovers, then went back to his hotel room. The next night, another woman, a stranger this time, met him at the hotel bar. Stayed a few hours, then left. Rachel confronted him in the hotel lobby the next morning. And she recorded everything. In the video, Keith looks terrified. He keeps saying, please don't tell her. Please, I'll get help. He admits to being with 4, maybe 5 women. Claims Alicia's baby isn't his. Tries to cry his way out of it. Rachel sent the video to Alicia. Alicia sent it to me. And I sent everything to my lawyer. When she saw it, she actually leaned back in her chair and said, with this much evidence of ongoing adultery and deceit, you can basically write your own terms for this divorce. And she wasn't exaggerating. After that, Keith stopped fighting completely. He didn't argue, didn't negotiate, just surrendered. But then, about a week ago, he showed up at my house at 2 in the morning. He was drunk. Standing on my porch, crying so hard the neighbor's porch lights came on. I almost didn't open the door, but I was worried someone would call the cops, so I let him in. He slumped onto the couch, face in his hands, smelling like whiskey and regret. And then the words started tumbling out. There were 7 or 8 women, he said. Some were one-time things. I don't know why I kept doing it. I asked the only question that mattered. Did you use protection? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. The next morning, I called my doctor and got tested again. Thankfully, still clean. But I'll need to do one more round in a few months to be absolutely certain. Meanwhile, Alicia had her latest ultrasound last week, and the news was unexpected. She's having twins. Both healthy. Both due in about 6 weeks. Keith will be paying child support for both of them. Rachel's moving forward with a lawsuit, emotional damages related to the miscarriage. And the woman from Denver? She's lawyering up too, thanks to Rachel's warning. Then Keith just vanished. Stopped answering his lawyer. Stopped replying to anyone. Even his mom. Catherine eventually called the police for a welfare check. They found him hiding out at her guest house. Physically fine, just avoiding reality, like always. The divorce should be final within the next few weeks. My lawyer says it's one of the easiest settlements she's ever handled. Keith signed everything over, the house, the savings, everything. He didn't even try to fight. She said she's rarely seen someone give up so completely. Maybe guilt finally did what I never could, made him stop pretending. Alicia, Rachel, and I still meet for coffee every week now. We half-jokingly call it our Keith support group. There's laughter sometimes, tears other times. But we get it. We survived the same storm. Alicia asked me recently if I'd consider being in the twins' lives, like an aunt figure. I told her we'd take things slow, but I wasn't opposed to it. Rachel's moving back from Denver next month to be closer to her family, and maybe to finally heal. As for me, my health is stable. I'm sleeping through the night. The cats are calm again. And I've started seeing someone new. He's another hygienist, works at a different practice. He knows everything about what happened, about Keith, the divorce, all of it. He's patient. Kind. Actually does his own laundry. It's nothing serious yet, and that's okay. I don't need grand gestures or promises. Just peace. And for the first time in a long time, I have that. The house is quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel lonely anymore, it feels earned. I used to think the truth would destroy me. That once everything came out, I'd never recover. But standing here now, surrounded by my cats, my plants, the faint smell of coffee from the kitchen, I finally understand something. The truth doesn't ruin your life. It just clears out the people who were never meant to stay. And that peace? That's enough. You ever have something so unfair happen that it physically makes your stomach turn? That's where I'm at right now, staring at the family restaurant I've devoted my entire life to, and realizing my brother just stole it right out from under me. I'm 34, my brother Mark's 31, and this whole nightmare has made me question everything I thought I knew about loyalty, about family. Our parents started Romano's, an Italian restaurant, way back in 1989. It was their dream after immigrating from Italy, just a little place that could seat maybe 30 people. My grandmother's recipes, her marinara sauce that's over 100 years old, the kind of food that makes you close your eyes after the first bite. Growing up, that restaurant wasn't just where we ate, it was where we lived. I did my homework in the back office, sitting on sacks of flour while mom prepped dough. I'd roll silverware while watching cartoons on the old kitchen TV. The smell of garlic and basil in the air, that was my childhood perfume. By the time I was 12, I was actually helping in the kitchen, washing dishes, chopping vegetables, learning every family recipe by heart. By high school, I was waiting tables every weekend and school break. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. And I loved it. Mark, on the other hand, had a very different childhood. While I was learning how to balance the books and handle dinner rushes, he was doing acting classes, community theater, dance lessons, anything remotely artsy. And my parents? They ate it up. Mark was the sensitive dreamer, the golden boy who needed support to find himself. They paid for everything, acting classes, headshots, voice lessons, even a performing arts high school that cost more than my entire college degree. Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks, saving tips to buy new equipment for the restaurant. And don't get me wrong, I didn't resent the work. I loved it. But I'll be honest, it hurt. They'd close early to see Mark's school plays, but when I graduated college, they couldn't come. Someone needs to run the restaurant, they said. After college, I came straight back, degree in business management in hand, determined to help Romano's grow. And I did. I computerized our entire ordering system, launched online reservations, started catering, basically dragged the restaurant out of the 1990s and into the modern world. Within 5 years, our revenue went up 40%. Meanwhile, Mark had moved to LA to chase his big break. Every few months he'd run out of money and come home, and every single time, mom and dad bailed him out. Rent, acting workshops, even a car so he could get to auditions. And I watched it all from behind the counter, feeling like the invisible child. Then 3 months ago, everything changed. Mom and dad both got COVID. Dad first, probably from a supplier meeting, and then mom caught it from him. They both ended up in the hospital. Dad was on a ventilator. I was terrified, barely sleeping, splitting my time between the restaurant and the hospital, just praying they'd pull through. That's when Mark showed up. Suddenly, the prodigal son returns, all smiles and devotion. He moved back into our parents' house, drove them to appointments, handled their meds, played the perfect caretaker. I'll admit it, part of me wanted to believe maybe he'd finally grown up. But something in my gut told me it wasn't that simple. Last week, our family lawyer, Jack, called me out of the blue. He was chatting about how proud he was of me, how much the restaurant had thrived under my management, and then casually said, "It's good you'll have such a solid foundation when Mark takes over." I almost dropped my phone. "When Mark takes over?" I asked. Jack hesitated, then explained that, apparently, while our parents were sick, Mark convinced them to give him power of attorney. He told them it would make things easier since he was handling their medical care. And under that power, he'd changed the will. He made himself the sole inheritor of Romano's. He told our parents that he'd given up acting, that he was ready to take over the business and honor their legacy. The same business I've been running, alone, for 15 years. When I confronted him, he didn't even pretend to feel bad. He smirked. "Don't worry, sis," he said, "you can keep your job. I'll even make you manager. Family discount, you know." He said it like he was doing me a favor. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Mark, I already am the manager. I built everything you're about to ruin." He laughed. "How hard can it be? You've been doing it for years." The audacity, I can't even describe it. Now, every time I try to visit our parents, he blocks me. Says they're resting, or at an appointment, or too tired to talk. I call, he answers their phone. Always an excuse. Always in control. He's isolated them completely, and they don't even realize it. I talked to my own lawyer, and she said we might be able to challenge the will. The timing, happening while they were seriously ill, could help my case. But it would be ugly. Public. And I know it would break their hearts to realize what Mark did. So I'm stuck. For now, I keep running the restaurant because I can't abandon our staff. Some of them have been with us over 20 years. They watch me grow up here. They're family. But every day, I have to see Mark strutting through my dining room like he owns it, bragging to the staff about his vision. Yesterday, he actually tried to explain inventory management to me. Me, the woman who designed the entire system from scratch. He doesn't even know how to run the register. And now, he's talking about revamping the brand, adding Hollywood flair and fusion dishes. God help me, he's going to destroy everything my parents built. This restaurant isn't just a business. It's my heritage, my family's legacy, my life. And now he's trying to sell it to a chain restaurant, while blowing money on some acting comeback that's never going to happen. So here I am, wondering, am I wrong for wanting to fight him? Should I walk away, start over, open my own place with everything I've learned? I could, easily. But it wouldn't be Romano's. It wouldn't have mom's sauce simmering on the stove, or the old photos of Naples on the wall, or the regulars who've known me since I was 5. It wouldn't be home. So yeah, maybe I'm about to become the villain in my family story. But if protecting our legacy makes me the bad guy, then so be it. Because this isn't just about a restaurant anymore. It's about everything I've ever worked for. And I'm not letting him take that away. A lot has happened since I last shared what was going on with my family, and somehow, it's gotten even worse than I ever imagined. I honestly want to thank everyone who gave advice before. So many of you told me to take a closer look at the restaurant's finances. And you were right. You were so right. Because what I found made my blood run cold. Yesterday morning, Mark, my golden boy, wannabe actor brother, gathered all the staff before opening. I thought maybe he was finally going to apologize for the chaos he's caused. No. He stood there in the middle of the dining room, our dining room, the one that still smells like my grandmother's marinara sauce and garlic bread, and announced that he's in talks with Food First. Yeah, that Food First. The massive corporate chain that buys up family restaurants, strips out their soul, and replaces everything with microwaved, authentic Italian meals in plastic bowls. He said it like it was something to celebrate, grinning, chest puffed out, telling everyone this was the next evolution of Romano's. That it would bring nationwide exposure and financial security. He even said, they'll keep the name and a few core menu items, so the heart of Romano's will still be there. I swear, I almost lost it right then and there. This restaurant has been family-owned for 35 years. My parents built it from nothing. We still use the same pasta maker my grandfather brought over from Naples. There's flour in the cracks of those old kitchen counters older than Mark's entire acting career. And now he wants to sell it to a faceless corporation that serves frozen pasta? I walked out before I said something I'd regret. But my hands were shaking. My vision was literally blurring with anger. After that meeting, I knew I had to see what else he was up to. Since I built our accounting system, I still have full access to everything, every invoice, every transaction, every dollar. So I logged in and started going through the business account. And that's when the bottom fell out. While our parents were in the hospital, Mark had been using the restaurant's account like his own personal piggy bank. Plane tickets to Los Angeles. Hotel charges at the Marriott in Hollywood. Payments to casting agencies. Acting workshops. Even $3,000 for new headshots. All of it, charged directly to the business. Over $50,000 in just 3 months. And all that time, he'd been telling mom and dad those trips were business meetings with suppliers or potential investors. Meanwhile, he was flying to LA to audition and take acting classes. The worst part? While he was off chasing his next imaginary big break, the restaurant was being held together by Sarah, our assistant manager who's been with us for 12 years. She worked doubles to cover his absences, thinking she was helping the family through a tough time. And he used her loyalty like it meant nothing. I didn't even know how to tell our parents. But it turned out, I didn't have to. They're finally recovering, strong enough to start asking questions. Yesterday, Mom asked to see the books. Mark immediately panicked. Started saying they were too weak to worry about business stuff and needed to focus on recovery. But Dad, being the stubborn old-school Italian man he is, said, "Show me the books." He and Mom spent 3 hours in the office going through everything while I managed the dinner rush. At one point, I could hear Mom crying through the door. When they finally came out, Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in a single afternoon. They'd seen the truth. Not just the money, though that alone was bad enough, but everything. The unpaid invoices, the late supplier payments, the corner cutting that had started affecting food quality. Even the complaints we'd gotten lately about dishes tasting different. Mom was heartbroken. She kept saying, he told us it was under control. He said he was protecting the business. And then came the part that shattered what little trust was left. They found out about the food first deal. Mark had told them he was exploring partnership opportunities, not that he was negotiating to sell the restaurant outright. Mom was devastated. Dad was quiet. That kind of quiet that feels like thunder before a storm. When they confronted Mark, he tried to spin it. Said the acting workshops were public speaking courses to help him become a better leader. Said the headshots were for professional business marketing. I swear, the man can't stop performing even when his audience has left the theater. And then Dad asked one simple question that shut him down completely. Where's your grandmother's recipe book? That book, that old, leather-bound notebook with handwritten notes from 3 generations, is basically our family Bible. Every sauce, every secret, every tradition. Mark froze. He said he'd moved it while cleaning the office. Mom ended up digging through boxes for hours before finding it, stuffed in a storage closet under old paperwork. Like it was junk. That was it. The final straw. Then they found the personal expenses, groceries, gym memberships, dating app subscriptions, all charged to the business card. He tried to claim it was all networking. Nobody bought it. Now, my parents are finally waking up to what's been happening. They're talking to their lawyer about revoking his power of attorney. They're sick over it, literally sick with guilt, realizing how badly he manipulated them. Mom keeps crying, saying she should have seen it coming. Dad barely speaks. The staff knows something's wrong. Word about the sale leaked, and some of our longest employees, people who've been with us 20 years, are quietly looking for new jobs. Our regular customers keep asking what's going on, and I have to smile and say, just some changes in management, while trying not to break down in front of them. The lawyer says revoking the power of attorney could take weeks. And until then, Mark still legally controls everything. He's already talking about modernizing the menu, which, in Mark speak, means replacing our fresh, handmade pasta with frozen supplier garbage to streamline operations. I'm fighting to hold this place together, but it feels like trying to plug holes in a sinking ship. To make it worse, some relatives are actually defending him. My aunt called yesterday and said, maybe he's right. Maybe corporatizing isn't such a bad idea. I had to hang up before I said something I couldn't take back. Because how do you explain to someone that this isn't just about food or money, it's about legacy? Romano's isn't just a restaurant. It's our story. Our roots. Every brick, every recipe, every picture on the wall is part of who we are. And watching Mark dismantle it, piece by piece, lie by lie, feels like losing my family all over again. I'll update when I can. For now, I'm doing everything I can to protect what's left before he destroys it completely. Things have completely exploded since my last update. If you thought it couldn't get worse, trust me, it did. Our parents finally went to court and managed to get Mark's power of attorney revoked. It was supposed to be the beginning of fixing everything, of taking our restaurant back. But instead, it opened a door we didn't even know existed, and behind it was something so much darker. While going through all the legal paperwork, we found out that Mark had taken out a $300,000 business loan, completely unauthorized, using Romano's as collateral. $300,000. He never told anyone. Not me, not Mom, not Dad. And when they confronted him about it, he didn't deny it. He actually stood there, smug, and said, and I quote, "I gave up everything to come take care of you guys. The least you could do is support my other projects." I swear, my dad nearly fell out of his chair. "What projects?" he asked. And that's when the truth came out. Mark never gave up acting. Not for 1 second. He had been using that loan money to fund his own independent film in Los Angeles. He told the bank he needed the loan to expand the family business. He told us he was meeting restaurant industry consultants and exploring investment opportunities. But in reality, he hired some shady production company, rented overpriced camera gear, paid for a small studio space, and started shooting his own movie, with our parents' restaurant as collateral. The film never even got finished. The other investors pulled out once they realized Mark had no clue what he was doing. He'd promised them connections, distribution deals, and industry backing. All lies. Now the production company is threatening to sue him for breach of contract. And the bank is threatening to seize the restaurant if the loan isn't paid back in 90 days. 90 days. When our parents confronted him, truly, fully confronted him, he had the nerve to say they should be grateful. He said, "You're lucky I came home when I did. I could have stayed in LA and let you handle everything alone. You owe me for putting my life on hold." That was it for me. I walked outside before I said something I'd regret. Later, while going through what's left of his film materials, we found his shooting schedule, printed, neatly organized, like he was proud of it. And there it was, the exact timeline. The days when our dad was on a ventilator, fighting for his life? Mark was in Los Angeles doing camera tests. The week Mom could barely get out of bed? He was holding casting sessions. He had hired a part-time nurse to check on them and told her he had urgent business meetings. That wasn't business. That was betrayal. And now, everyone's paying the price. Our longtime employees, the ones who took pay cuts during the pandemic to keep Romano's alive, are furious. They found out what he did. Sarah, our assistant manager, who's practically family, discovered that Mark denied her raise request because the business was tight. That same week, he spent $20,000 on camera equipment. Some of our suppliers, people we've worked with for over 20 years, have started demanding payment up front. A few won't even do business with us anymore. Our produce supplier actually said, "I love your family, but I can't trust your brother." It broke me hearing that. And then came the part that nearly destroyed my father. He found out Mark forged his signature on the loan documents. Forged it. He'd even used photos from when Dad was in the hospital to convince the bank that he had authority over the business. The bank is now investigating for fraud, but that doesn't stop the countdown. If the loan isn't repaid in 90 days, they'll take the restaurant. Our family's legacy, gone. And Mark's explanation? He said the movie would have helped the business. That having a filmmaker in the family would bring prestige and free marketing. When Mom started crying, asking how he could risk everything they built, he actually said, "You're being overly emotional. You need to think about the bigger picture." That's when I realized there's nothing left of the brother I grew up with. Just a narcissist in an actor's costume, too far gone to tell the difference between fantasy and real life. I've been digging through the accounts nonstop, trying to calculate the damage. So far, I found ATM withdrawals near LA film studios, charges for 5-star restaurant dinners with investors, payments to an acting coach, listed in the books as a business consultant. The lawyer told us, "You have a strong case for fraud." But here's the catch, pressing charges might make it harder to get the loan money back, since if he goes to jail, there's no one left to pay. Our parents are completely torn. They're shattered by the betrayal, but the idea of sending their own son to prison is killing them. Dad doesn't even speak much anymore. He just sits at his usual table near the kitchen, staring at the loan papers. Mom's trying to stay strong, but you can see it in her eyes. Every lie, every manipulation has aged her. And Mark? He's still defending himself. He keeps saying, everything I did was for the family, and that we're too small-minded to understand his artistic vision. Yesterday, he actually looked me straight in the face and said, "We should sell the restaurant, pay off the loan, and invest the rest into my next film. This one will work, I promise." I swear I couldn't tell if he was serious or just completely detached from reality. Right now, I'm doing everything I can to keep Romanos alive while our parents decide whether to press charges. And for the first time since all this started, I'm scared. Because we might not just lose our family business. We might lose our family, for good. This is it, the final update. A lot has happened since my last post, and honestly, I never thought we'd get here. After months of chaos, heartbreak, and courtroom drama, my parents finally made their decision. And it was probably the hardest thing they've ever had to do. They changed their will. This time, the restaurant, Romanos, is legally and solely mine. Our lawyer made sure every document was airtight, every signature verified, every loophole closed. And to make sure Mark could never pull another stunt like this, my parents decided that his share of their inheritance will go toward repaying the loan he took out. He's furious, of course. But there's nothing he can do. The evidence is overwhelming. The fraud, the fake signatures, the bank statements, it's all there in black and white. When the bank saw everything, they agreed to restructure the loan instead of seizing the restaurant. We're still paying off that mountain of debt, but at least we're not losing our family's legacy. We had to tighten our belts, postpone the renovation, scale back on some costs, but the doors are still open, the kitchen is still alive, and the smell of fresh basil and simmering tomatoes still fills the air every morning. We survived. Mark didn't take it well, not that I expected him to. He tried every excuse in the book. He said he only wanted what was best for the family, that his film could have made us all rich, that we ruined his big break. When that didn't work, he started calling relatives, spinning a story about how I manipulated our parents, that I was jealous of his talent, and had turned them against him. For a minute, some of them believed him, until our parents showed the receipts. Literally. The loan documents. The forged signatures. The hundreds of thousands of dollars in acting expenses. That shut the gossip down fast. And here's the irony of it all, Mark's now working as a waiter at one of Food First's chain restaurants. The same company he tried to sell Romanos to. Apparently, his industry connections in LA evaporated the moment he ran out of money. No one wanted to work with him anymore. He even tried to get help from his old acting coach, the same guy he'd bragged about being connected. Turns out the coach had already moved on to scamming a new batch of hopefuls. Poetic justice, I guess. Meanwhile, back at Romanos, business is better than ever. We launched a weekend brunch menu, something we talked about for years, and it's been a hit. We've got new customers filling the place every Saturday and Sunday. I even started hosting cooking classes, where we teach people our family recipes. Not the secret ones, of course, some things still stay in the family. Word got out about how we fought off the corporate takeover, and suddenly Romanos became a local symbol, the little family restaurant that stood its ground. People are proud to eat here again. Our regulars still come in, order their usuals, and smile when they see my dad back behind the counter. He's finally healthy enough to come in a few days a week, just to greet customers and make his famous tiramisu. The one he insists tastes better when you're smiling. And Mom, she's healing, too. Emotionally, physically. She still blames herself sometimes, says she should have seen it sooner. But she's also grateful. Grateful the restaurant is safe. Grateful that the truth finally came out. As for me, I've made peace with it, as much as I can, anyway. Mark still tries to reach out. He sends messages through mutual friends, saying he's changed, that he's learned his lesson, that he wants to make things right. Last week, one of those friends passed along a message from him. I've got a new film idea. I just need $50,000 to get started. I blocked that friend immediately. Because some bridges, once they're burned, should stay that way. The relatives who defended him? Gone too. I don't need people in my life who'd side with someone who nearly destroyed our family for a shot at fame. The restaurant's still here. The walls still hold our history, the old photographs of my grandparents in Naples, the scuffed floors, the smell of marinara sauce made exactly the way my grandmother taught us. Our staff, the ones who stayed, know their jobs are safe. They still laugh in the kitchen, tease each other during prep, and greet customers like family. And every night, when I lock up, I take one last look around and realize something. The best revenge isn't yelling, or lawsuits, or payback. The best revenge is peace. It's watching the place someone tried to destroy thrive without them. It's the sound of laughter from loyal customers, the clink of glasses, the smell of sauce that hasn't changed in 35 years. It's knowing that Romano's, my Romano's, is still standing. Still family-owned. Still home. Sometimes, you don't need to win in court or crush your enemies to feel victorious. Sometimes, you just keep going. And that's exactly what I plan to do.